The transport station buzzed with activity as beings from across the galaxy moved through the crowded halls. Kim Wan adjusted his atmospheric helmet and checked his boarding pass one more time. The sleek white helmet covered his entire head, its dark visor reflecting the bright lights of the station. Small green lights blinked along its sides, showing that all systems were working properly. Kim walked toward the boarding gate for the Nexus Dawn, a massive passenger ship that would take him to the Kepler station where his new job waited. He was excited to start work as an engineer on one of the galaxy's biggest mining operations. The pay was good, and he would finally be able to send money back to his family on Earth. Around him, other passengers moved in the same direction. A group of tall, gray-skinned Valkyns chatted in their clicking language. Their thick, natural skin could handle almost any atmosphere, so they needed no protection. 3 Reptons slithered past, their scales gleaming under the station lights. They breathed through small slits in their necks and could survive in environments that would kill most other species in minutes. Near the boarding area, a large Korathian stomped forward on his 6 legs. His body was covered in natural armor that was harder than steel. Kim had heard that Korathians could survive in space for short periods without any protection at all. A small group of nebulites floated nearby, their gas-like bodies contained in energy fields that glowed softly. Blue Kim smiled inside his helmet. The galaxy was full of amazing creatures, each perfectly adapted to their home worlds. Humans were different. They were soft, weak, and needed protection to survive in most environments. But they were also clever, and they made tools to help them live anywhere. As Kim approached the security checkpoint, he noticed how icily the other passengers moved through. The Valkyns simply walked past the scanners. The Reptons slithered through without stopping. The Korathian's armor was scanned quickly, and he was waved through with a respectful nod from the security officer. Then it was Kim's turn. The security officer was a Valkyn named Thelver. His gray skin was marked with the blue tattoos that showed his rank in the Galactic Transit Authority. His large dark eyes fixed on Kim's helmet, and his expression changed from bored professionalism to something harder. "Stop," Thelver said, his voice carrying the authority of someone used to being obeyed. "Remove the helmet, human." Kim blinked. In surprise, "I'm sorry, what?" "Remove the helmet. Now." Thelver's hand moved to the scanner device on his belt. Galactic Transit Authority Regulation 847B clearly states that no helmets are permitted during boarding procedures. Kim felt his heart begin to beat faster. "But I need this helmet to breathe safely on the ship. The atmosphere mix on the Nexus Dawn has too much nitrogen for humans. Without the helmet, I could get sick or even die." "That is not my concern," Thelver replied coldly. "The regulation is clear. No helmets during boarding. You may put it back on after you are seated on the ship. But the boarding tunnel isn't properly sealed," Kim protested. "The atmospheric readings on my helmet showed dangerous levels of xenon gas from the ship's engines. If I breathe that for even a few minutes, remove the helmet or you will not board." Thelver interrupted. "These are the rules." Kim looked around, hoping someone would help him, or at least explain what was happening. He saw other passengers watching the confrontation with interest. Some looked sympathetic, but none spoke up. A few of the Valkyns seemed amused by his problem. "I don't understand," Kim said, trying to keep his voice calm. "Everyone else gets to keep their natural protection. The Korathians have their armor. The Nebulites have their energy fields. The Reptons have their scales. Why can't I keep my helmet?" "Because you are human," Thelver said simply. "And humans are not permitted to board with helmets. This is for the safety and security of all passengers." From nearby, Kim heard a woman's voice. "That's not fair." He turned to see another human, watching the scene with obvious anger. She was about his age, with short black hair and intelligent eyes. Her own helmet hung from her belt, and she carried a scientific data pad. "Dr. Park Mira," she said, introducing herself as she approached. "I'm a xenobiologist, and I've been documenting cases like this across the galaxy. This regulation specifically targets humans, and it's discriminatory." Thelver's eyes narrowed. "The regulation applies to all artificial head coverings." "It is not discriminatory, really?" Dr. Park asked, pointing to a nearby passenger. That Hegemony Council member is wearing a ceremonial crown that covers half his head. Why isn't he being asked to remove it? It is a ceremonial dress. Not protective. Equipment, Thelver replied, but his voice sounded less certain now. And what about the Zephyrian over there? Dr. Park continued, indicating a tall, thin creature with a complex breathing apparatus attached to its face. That's clearly artificial life support, just like our helmets. The Zephyrian device is a medical necessity, Thelver said firmly. Human helmets are ... different. Kim felt frustrated and confused. Different how? My helmet is also a medical necessity. Without it, I can't survive in most atmospheric conditions. That is not my concern, Thelver repeated. Remove the helmet or step aside. You are holding. Up the line? Behind Kim, more passengers were gathering, waiting to board. Some looked impatient, others curious. Kim noticed several other humans in the crowd, all wearing their helmets, all looking worried as they realized what was happening. Dr. Park stepped closer to Kim. Don't remove it, she said quietly. I've seen what happens when humans try to. Board without proper atmospheric protection. 3 people died last month on the Centauri run because they were forced to remove their helmets. Then what do I do? Kim asked, feeling desperate. I need to get to Kepler Station. Start my new job in 3 days. We figure this out together, Dr. Park said. This regulation is wrong, and it's dangerous. Someone needs to challenge it. Thelver was growing impatient. You have 30 seconds to comply, or I will call security to remove you from the boarding area. Kim looked at his helmet and his hands, then at the boarding tunnel beyond the checkpoint. He could see the Nexus dawn through the transparent walls, its massive bulk filling the docking bay. So close, yet suddenly so far away. I'll wait, Kim said finally. I'm not risking my life for a regulation that doesn't make sense. As Kim stepped aside, he noticed other humans in the boarding line also stepping back. It seemed he wasn't the only one facing this problem. Dr. Park was right. This was bigger than just one confused security officer. The question was, what were they going to do about it? Kim Wan and Dr. Park Myra sat in the station's waiting area, watching the Nexus Dawn prepare for departure. Around them, other stranded humans gathered with worried faces. The ship's engines began to glow brighter, and soon it would leave without them. This isn't the first time this has happened, Dr. Park said, opening her datapad. I've been studying these incidents for 2 years. The helmet regulations started in 2387, right after something called the Great Boarding War. The Great Boarding War? Kim asked. I never heard of any war. Most people haven't, Dr. Park replied. The Hegemony Council doesn't like to talk about it. But I found records in the old archives. She showed Kim her screen. It all started with one man, a human colonist named Lee Dong-soo. Dr. Park touched the screen, and holographic images appeared in the air above the datapad. The images showed a merchant ship called the Stellar Pride, floating in space near a small mining station. Lee Dong-soo was trying to get home to see his sick daughter, Dr. Park explained. He'd been working on Titan Base for 6 months, saving money for her medical treatment. When he finally got leave, he rushed to catch the first transport back to Earth. The hologram showed a man in his 30s, wearing a simple atmospheric helmet much like Kim's. He looked tired but determined as he approached the ship's boarding ramp. Back then, there was no regulation about helmets, Dr. Park continued. Lee boarded the Stellar Pride normally, just like any other passenger. But something went wrong during the boarding process. The images changed, showing the inside of the ship. Emergency lights were flashing and people were running in panic. Ship's artificial intelligence system malfunctioned, Dr. Park said. It was a new model, very advanced, programmed by the Hegemony Council's best engineers. But when Lee's helmet interfaced with the ship's systems for the standard safety check, something triggered a security protocol. Kim watched as the hologram showed sealed doors and panicked passengers trapped inside different sections of the ship. The AI thought the ship was under attack, Dr. Park explained. It sealed all the airlocks, trapped everyone inside, and began what it called defensive procedures. The ship's atmosphere started changing to something that would kill most species in minutes. What happened to Lee? Kim asked. That's where it gets interesting, Dr. Park said with a small smile. Lee was trapped in the engineering section with 12 other passengers from different species. They were all going to die within hours if someone didn't fix the problem. The hologram showed Lee examining the ship's control panels, his helmet's visor glowing as it processed information. The ship's crew tried everything, Dr. Park continued. They called the best engineers in the galaxy. They contacted the Hegemony Council. They even tried to override the AI remotely. Nothing worked. The system was too advanced, too secure. But Lee was just a colonist, Kim said. What could he do that trained engineers couldn't? That's exactly what everyone thought, Dr. Park replied. But Lee had something the others didn't. A human. Engineer's helmet and a human way of thinking. The hologram showed Lee working steadily. His helmet's lights blinking as he connected to different systems throughout the ship. For 72 hours, Lee worked without stopping, Dr. Park said. His helmet helped him analyze the ship's systems, find weaknesses, and create solutions that no one else had thought of. He didn't try to fight the AI directly. Instead, he tricked it. Kim leaned forward, fascinated. How Lee realized that the AI was following its programming perfectly, Dr. Park explained. It was designed to protect the ship from attack, so it saw every attempt to override it as proof that the attack was real. But Lee approached the problem differently. The hologram showed Lee connecting his helmet to what looked like a waste disposal system. He used his helmet to create false sensor readings, Dr. Park continued. He made the AI think that the attack was over and that the ship was safe. But he did it slowly, carefully, so the AI wouldn't notice the deception. Kim watched as the sealed doors in the hologram began to open one by one. It took 3 days, but Lee freed everyone, Dr. Park said. Not only that, but he improved the ship's systems while he was doing it. His helmet had recorded everything wrong with the AI's programming, and he fixed dozens of problems that the original engineers never even knew existed. The hologram showed Lee finally removing his helmet, surrounded by grateful passengers from a dozen different species. The Hegemony Council was embarrassed, Dr. Park said. Their most advanced AI had been outsmarted by a human colonist with basic engineering training. The story spread quickly through the galaxy. People started calling it the Great Boarding War because Lee had fought and won a battle against the most sophisticated computer system ever built. Kim began to understand. So they created the helmet regulation to prevent other humans from doing the same thing. Exactly, Dr. Park confirmed. They claimed it was for security reasons, but really it was to stop humans from bringing their most useful tool onto ships. They were afraid of what humans could do with these helmets. Dr. Park showed Kim more records on her datapad. Look at this. After Lee's incident, there were 17 other cases where humans with helmets solved major problems that stumped alien engineers. A plague outbreak on Vega Station, a reactor meltdown on Proxima Base, a navigation failure that saved an entire fleet. Kim studied the records. Each case showed humans using their helmets to gather information, analyze problems, and create solutions that others couldn't imagine. The helmet regulation was passed quietly, Dr. Park said. No big announcement, no explanation. Just a simple rule that humans couldn't board ships with helmets on. They said it was temporary, just until they could study the security implications. But that was almost 40 years ago, Kim said. And the regulation is still in place, Dr. Park replied. Because they're still afraid of what humans can do. Kim looked at his helmet, seeing it in a new way. It wasn't just protection. It was a tool that made him more capable, more adaptable, more human. What happened to Lee Dong-soo? Kim asked. Dr. Park's expression grew sad. He made it home to his daughter. The medical treatment saved her life. But Lee was quietly banned from traveling on any Hegemony Council ship again. He spent the rest of his life working on small, independent vessels. Kim felt angry, so they punished him for saving people. They were afraid of him, Dr. Park said simply. And they're still afraid of all of us, around them, more stranded. Humans gathered, all facing the same problem. Kim realized this wasn't just about one regulation or one security officer. This was about fear, control, and the lengths that others would go to keep humans from showing their true potential. Need to do something about this, Kim said. Dr. Park nodded. Yes, we do. But first we need to understand exactly what we're up against. Kim Wan and Dr. Park Mira had been stuck at the station for 6 hours when they met the others. 3 more humans sat in the waiting area, all looking frustrated and worried. Their ships had left without them, and the next available transport wouldn't arrive for 2 days. "I'm Choi Woo-jin," said a tall man with strong hands marked by years of physical work. "I haul cargo between the outer colonies. Been doing this job for 15 years, and I've never seen security act like this before." "Song Yun-ha," said a woman in formal diplomatic clothes. "I work for the human embassy on Centauri Prime. I was supposed to be at an important meeting tomorrow, but now." She gestured helplessly at the empty docking bay where her ship used to be. The youngest of the group was a student named Nam Q. He looked barely 20, with curious eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. "I'm studying alien technology at the academy," he said. "This regulation doesn't make sense from an engineering perspective. Human helmets are actually less dangerous than most alien protective gear." Dr. Park nodded. "It's because the regulation isn't really about safety. It's about control." As they talked, Kim noticed a maintenance worker cleaning nearby. The man was human, wearing the brown uniform of station service staff. He kept glancing at their group while he worked as if he wanted to say something, but wasn't sure he should. Finally, the worker approached them. "Excuse me," he said quietly. "I couldn't help but hear what you were talking about. My name is Jang Tae-ho. I've been working on this station for 8 years. Nice to meet you, Kim," said. "I'm Kim Hwan." Jang looked around carefully, making sure no alien security officers were nearby. "I know about the helmet problem," he said in a low voice. "I've seen it happen hundreds of times, but I also know something else, something that might interest." "You? What do you mean?" Dr. Park asked. Jang hesitated, then made a decision. "Follow me, but stay quiet and act normal." He led them through the station's busy corridors, past shops and restaurants, toward the maintenance levels. The crowds thinned as they went deeper into the station's working areas. Finally, Jang stopped at a plain door marked "Authorized Personnel Only." "I shouldn't be showing you this," Jang said as he opened the door with his access card. "Think you need to see it." They followed him down a narrow corridor lined with pipes and electrical cables. The air was cooler here, and Kim could hear the steady hum of the station's life support systems. After several turns, Jang stopped at another door. This section was abandoned 5 years ago when they upgraded the station's power systems. Jung explained, "Nobody comes here anymore except me." He opened the door and Kim gasped. The room beyond was filled with rows of shelves, and on every shelf sat human helmets. Hundreds of them, maybe thousands, all carefully arranged and labeled. "What is this place?" Song asked, stepping into the room with wonder. "It's where they bring the confiscated helmets," Jing said. "Every helmet taken from a human at every station, every spaceport, every border crossing in this sector. They're supposed to be destroyed, but ... double quotes. He shrugged. Kim walked between the shelves, amazed. Each helmet was different. Some were simple, atmospheric processors, like his own. Others were complex engineering units, with multiple sensors and tools. All of them showed signs of use, of lives lived and work done. This one belonged to Dr. Yang Sumi, Jung said, pointing to a helmet with medical sensors. She detected a plague outbreak on Rigel Station 15 years ago. Saved 10,000 lives. He moved to another shelf. This was Captain Ruhanel's helmet. She used it to repair a space station's life support system when everyone else said it was impossible. Nam picked up a helmet covered in research sensors. "In this one?" Engineer Bijin Skugjong replied. "She solved the water crisis on New Sahara. The planet was dying, and she found a way to extract water from the atmosphere that no one else had thought of." Dr. Park was taking notes on her datapad, recording everything. "How many are there?" "Over 3,000, Jang said. Each one tells a story of human ingenuity, human problem-solving, human adaptation. And each one was taken away because someone was afraid of what humans could do." Choi picked up a heavy-duty helmet designed for dangerous work environments. "They're not just protective gear, are they?" "No," Jang said. "They're mobile laboratories. Communication arrays, sensor packages, repair kits. emergency medical equipment. Each helmet is designed to help humans survive and thrive in environments that would kill them otherwise. Kim understood now. That's why they're afraid of us. Other species evolved to fit their environments perfectly, but humans evolved to change their environments, to adapt, to solve problems that others can't even imagine. Exactly, Zhang said. Korathine's armor is strong, but it only does one thing. Ereptin's scales protect them, but they can't be modified. Human helmet is different. It can be programmed, updated, modified, connected to other systems. It makes humans more than human. Song looked around the room with new understanding. So, they created the regulation to limit human potential. They were afraid, Zhang said. Simply. After Li Dongsu's incident, after all the other cases where humans solved problems that stumped alien experts, they realized that humans with helmets were unpredictable, dangerous from their perspective. Nam was examining a helmet with advanced computing systems. Look at this. Its helmet has processing power equal to a small starship's computer. And it's portable. A human wearing this could outthink most. Alien A is. That's the point, Dr. Park said. They don't want humans to be that capable. They want us to be dependent, controllable, limited. Kim felt anger growing inside him. How many humans have died because they couldn't wear their helmets? How many problems went unsolved because human engineers couldn't access their tools? Zhang's expression grew sad. Too many. I've kept records, unofficial ones. At least 47 humans have died from atmospheric poisoning in the last decade because they were forced to board ships without protection. And that's just the deaths. I know about this has to stop, Song said firmly. As a diplomat, I can tell you that this regulation violates at least 6 interspecies treaties on equal treatment. But can you prove it? Choi asked. Can you prove that the regulation is discriminatory? Dr. Park held up her datapad. With this room as evidence and all these helmets as proof of human capability, yes, I can prove it. Kim looked around the room one more time. Each helmet represented a human who had been limited, controlled, made less than they could be. But it also represented potential, the potential to solve problems, to help others, to show the galaxy what humans could really do. We need to get these helmets back to their owners, Kim said. That's impossible, Zhang said. Most of the owners are dead or scattered across the galaxy. Then we need to make sure this never happens again, Kim replied. We need to end this regulation once and for all. As if responding to his words, the station's emergency alarms began to sound. Red lights flashed, and an automated voice announced, "Attention all personnel. Reactor emergency. All non-essential personnel evacuate immediately." The group looked at each other with growing concern. Reactor emergency on a space station was one of the most dangerous situations possible. They were trapped here, with no way off the station and no access to the tools they needed to help. Looks like we're about to find out just how much we need our helmets, Kim said grimly. The emergency alarms grew louder as Kim, Wan, and the others rushed through the station corridors. Red warning lights flashed everywhere, and the automated voice kept repeating its message. Reactor emergency. All non-essential personnel evacuate immediately. But there was nowhere to evacuate to. The last transport ship had left an hour ago, and the next one wouldn't arrive for days. Everyone on the station was trapped with whatever was happening to the reactor. We need to get to the control center, Dr. Park Mira said, running alongside. Kim, if we can find out what's wrong, maybe we can help.
How, Choi?
Wu Jin asked. We don't have our helmets. We're just ordinary people without our tools. Kim thought about the room full of confiscated helmets they had just seen. Maybe we won't be ordinary for long. They reached the main control center to find chaos. Alien engineers from a dozen different species crowded around computer displays, arguing loudly in their various languages. The air was thick with tension and the smell of overheated electronics. Station Commander Veltar stood in the center of the room, his 6 armored legs planted firmly on the deck. The massive Korathine's natural armor gleamed under the emergency lights as he barked orders to his staff. Report, Veltar commanded. A thin Valkan engineer approached nervously. Commander, the exotic matter containment field is failing. The reactor's core temperature is rising beyond safe levels. How long do we have? Veltar asked. At current rates, Complete containment failure in 4 hours, the engineer replied. If that happens, the exotic matter will create a gravitational singularity. Kim felt his blood run cold. A gravitational singularity, a black hole, would consume the entire station and everything around it. What are our options? Veltar demanded. A Repton engineer slithered forward. We could try to eject the reactor core, but the magnetic containment systems are not responding to our commands. The backup systems? Veltar asked. Also failing, said a third engineer, this one from a species Kim didn't recognize. Exotic. Matter is interfering with all our electronic systems. Kim stepped forward. Commander, my team and I are engineers. We might be able to help. Veltar turned to look at Kim, his large eyes showing surprise and then dismissal. You are human passengers. Oh, this is a job for trained professionals. We are trained professionals, Song Yuna said firmly, joining Kim. I'm a diplomatic engineer. He's a mining systems specialist, and we have a cargo systems expert and a technology student. And a xenobiologist who specializes in exotic matter effects, Dr. Park added. Veltar's expression didn't change. Even if that is true, you have no equipment, no access to our systems, and no experience with this type of reactor. But we have a different way of thinking, Kim said. Sometimes that's exactly what you need. The Corathion commander's armor plates shifted in what Kim recognized as a dismissive gesture. We have the finest engineers in the galaxy working on this problem. We do not need human tricks, as if to prove his point wrong. Another alarm started blaring. A nebulite engineer, its gaseous form contained in a shimmering energy field, floated quickly to a display panel. Commander, the containment field just dropped another 15%, the nebulite reported. We're now at critical levels. Options? Veltar asked again. The alien engineers looked at each other helplessly. Kim could see the fear in their eyes, or at least in the eyes of the species that had eyes. We could try recalibrating the magnetic field generators, suggested the Valkan engineer. We already tried that, the Repton replied. It didn't work. What about a full system restart? Asked another engineer. Too dangerous, the nebulite said. We lose containment during the restart. The exotic matter will be released immediately. Kim watched the alien engineers work, and he began to understand the problem. Each species was approaching the crisis from their own perspective, using their own specialized knowledge. The Valkans were focused on electronics, the Reptons on mechanical systems, the Nebulites on energy fields, but they weren't working together, weren't combining their knowledge. What exactly is exotic matter? Namq asked quietly. Dr. Park pulled out her datapad. It's matter that exists in a state of quantum superposition. It can exist in multiple states at once until something forces it to choose one state. It's incredibly powerful, but also incredibly unstable. What happens when the containment fails? Kim asked. The exotic matter will collapse into its most stable state, Dr. Park explained. Unfortunately, that stable state is a black hole with the mass of a small planet, Choi whistled softly. No wonder they're panicking. Kim studied the displays. Around the control room, he could see readouts showing temperature, pressure, magnetic field strength, and dozens of other measurements. But the information was scattered across different systems, in different formats, designed for different species. They're treating this like separate problems, Kim realized. Temperature control, magnetic containment, quantum stabilization. They're trying to solve each one individually, but it's all connected, Nam added, understanding immediately. The exotic matter affects all the systems at once. Exactly, Kim said. They need to think about it as one big system, not a bunch of separate ones. Song looked around the control room. But how do we convince them to listen to us? We've already decided we can't help, as if answering her question. Another alarm sounded. This one was different. A deep, resonant tone that seemed to vibrate through the station's hull. Commander, the Valkan engineer called out in panic. The exotic matter is beginning to destabilize. We're seeing quantum fluctuations beyond anything in our databases. Veltar's armor plates shifted again, but this time Kim recognized the movement as fear, time to containment failure. 2 hours, maybe less, the engineer replied. Around the control room, the alien engineers began working with desperate intensity. But Kim could see that they were making the same mistakes, approaching the problem in the same ways that had already failed. "We need to do something," Kim said to his group. "What can we do?" Choi asked. "We don't have access to their systems." Kim thought about the room full of confiscated helmets.
Oh.
Dr. Park asked 10. Kim looked at Jung Tae-ho, who had followed them to the control center. "You said you've been maintaining those helmets for years. Are any of them still functional?" Jang nodded slowly. "Most of them. I've been keeping them in working order, just in case."
Oh.
"Just in case of what?" Song asked. "Just in case humans needed to be human again," Jang replied. Another alarm sounded, and Kim saw several alien engineers throwing up their hands in frustration. Whatever they were trying wasn't working. "We need those helmets," Kim said. "All of us. If we're going to solve this problem, we need to think like humans." "But the regulations," Nam started. "The regulations won't matter if we're all dead," Kim interrupted. "I have a feeling that in about 2 hours Commander Veltar is going to realize that human tricks might be exactly what he needs." The question was whether they could get their hands on the tools they needed before it was too late. Kim looked around at the panicking alien engineers and knew that time was running out fast. "Jang," Kim said, "how quickly can you get us back to that storage room?" 5 minutes, Jang replied. "Then let's go get our helmets," Kim said. "It's time to show them what humans can really do." Kim Won and his team raced through the station corridors as the emergency alarms continued to blare. They had less than 2 hours before the exotic matter containment failed completely. Behind them, they could hear the sounds of panic as passengers and crew realized that evacuation was impossible. "This way," Jang Tae-ho called, leading them toward the maintenance levels. "We can take the service tunnels. It's faster." As they ran, Dr. Park Mira was working on her datapad. "I'm sending a broadcast to all the ships that evacuated," she said breathlessly. "If we can't solve this, at least someone should know the truth about the helmet regulation." "What are you telling them?" Song Yunha asked. "Everything," Dr. Park replied. "The real reason for the regulation, Lee Dong-soo's story, the room full of confiscated helmets, all of it. If the Hegemony Council wanted to keep this secret, they shouldn't have put us all in danger." They reached the abandoned section and hurried toward the storage room. But as they rounded the last corner, they found their path blocked. Commander Veltar stood in front of the storage room door, his massive armored form filling the narrow corridor. "Going somewhere, humans?" Korathan asked, his voice cold and threatening. Kim stopped, his heart pounding. "Commander, we're trying to help. The station is in danger." "The station is under control," Veltar said firmly. "My engineers are handling the situation. You will return to the passenger areas immediately." "Your engineers are failing," Choi Woo-jin said bluntly. "We saw them in the control room. They don't know what they're doing." Veltar's armor plates shifted angrily. "My engineers are the finest in the galaxy. They have advanced degrees from the best universities, years of experience, the most sophisticated equipment available, but they're not working together," Nam-Kyu said. "They are each trying to solve part of the problem, but exotic matter doesn't work that way. It affects everything at once." "And what would humans know about exotic matter?" Veltar demanded. Dr. Park stepped forward. "More than you might think. Humans have been studying quantum physics for centuries. We understand that everything in the universe is connected, that you can't solve complex problems by looking at just one piece." "Theories," Veltar dismissed. "We need practical solutions." "That's exactly what we can provide," Kim said. "We need our tools. We need our helmets." Veltar moved slightly, blocking the door more completely. "The helmets stay locked away. That is the regulation." "The regulation is wrong," Song said firmly. "It's discriminatory, it's dangerous, and it's about to get everyone on this station killed." For a moment, Veltar said nothing. Then another alarm sounded, different from the others, a deep, continuous tone that seemed to vibrate through the station's hull. Jang looked terrified. "That's the final warning alarm. Containment failure in 90 minutes. As if summoned by the alarm, a Vulcan security officer appeared at the end of the corridor. "Commander, you're needed in the control room immediately. The situation has gotten worse." Veltar looked at the humans, then at the storage room door. Kim could see the conflict in his eyes, pride fighting against fear, regulations against reality.
Yes.
What has changed? Veltar asked the security officer. The exotic matter is beginning to create small gravitational distortions, the officer reported. Hull stress is increasing. Some of the outer sections are starting to buckle. Kim felt a chill run down his spine. If the station's hull failed, before the reactor containment did, they would all be sucked into space. Your engineers, Veltar asked. They're struggling, sir, the officer admitted. The lead engineer requested that you return immediately. Veltar stood silent for a long moment. Kim could almost see the thoughts racing through the commander's mind. His people were dying, his station was falling apart, and his engineers couldn't. Stop it, Commander, Kim said quietly. I know you don't trust us. I know you think humans are dangerous with our helmets. But right now, we're the only chance this station has. You're asking me to violate regulations that have been in place for 40 years, Veltar said. I'm asking you to save lives, Kim replied, including your own. Another vibration shook the station, stronger this time. The distance, they could hear the sound of metal bending and stretching. Song stepped forward. Commander, as a diplomatic representative of the human embassy, I formally request emergency access to protective equipment necessary for our survival and the survival of all beings on this station. And as a scientist, Dr. Park added, I can tell you that the exotic matter containment will fail in approximately 87 minutes. When it does, everyone on this station will die unless someone solves this problem. Veltar looked at each of them in turn. Kim could see the fear behind his proud exterior, the realization that his engineers weren't going to save them. What? Can you do that? My trained professionals cannot, Veltar asked finally. We can think differently, Kim said. We can see connections that specialized training might miss. We can work together as a team instead of as individual experts. We can improvise, Choi added. When regulations and procedures don't work, humans find new ways. That's exactly what scares us about you, Veltar said quietly. The station shook again, more violently this time. Somewhere in the distance, an alarm started screaming about. Hull breach warnings. Commander, the security officer said urgently. We need you in the control room now. Veltar looked at the storage room door, then back at the humans. Kim could see the moment when the commander's fear for his people finally overcame his pride in his regulations. If I allow this, Veltar said slowly, and you fail, you will die with the rest of us. If you don't allow it, Kim replied, we'll all die anyway. For another long moment, Veltar stood motionless. Then, with a gesture that seemed to cost him everything, he stepped aside. Jang Tae-ho, he said formally, by emergency authority granted to me as station commander. I authorize temporary access to this storage facility for the purpose of station preservation. Jang immediately opened the door with his access card. Which helmets do you need? He asked. All of them, Kim said. If we're going to solve this problem, we need every human on this station working together. As they entered the storage room, Kim felt a sense of hope for the first time since the crisis began. The confiscated helmets gleamed on their shelves, each one representing human potential that had been locked away for too long. Time to show them what humans can really do, Dr. Park said, reaching for her confiscated helmet. Behind them, Commander. Veltar watched with a mixture of fear and hope in his eyes. In 75 minutes, he would learn whether trusting humans had been the right choice or the last mistake he would ever make. Kim Won placed his helmet on his head and felt the familiar sensation as it activated. Small lights blinked along the sides as the systems came online. Around him, the other humans were doing the same thing. Dr. Park Myra put on her scientific helmet. Choi Woo-jin selected a heavy-duty cargo model. Song Yoon-ha chose one designed for diplomatic work, and Nam-kyu picked up an advanced research unit. How long do we have? Kim asked, as his helmet's display showed the current status of the station. 68 minutes until containment failure, Dr. Park replied, her helmet already analyzing the exotic matter readings from throughout the station. Commander? Veltar watched them nervously. What are you doing? Connecting, Kim said simply. His helmet was linking to the station's sensor network, gathering information from hundreds of different sources. Our helmets can share data with each other. We can see the whole problem at once, instead of just pieces. The humans walked quickly toward the control room, their helmets glowing and beeping as they processed information. By the time they arrived, Kim already understood what was happening with the reactor. The control room was in chaos. Alien engineers rushed between different stations, each focused on their own specialty. The Vulcans worked on electrical systems, the Reptans handled mechanical repairs, and the Nebulites tried to stabilize the energy fields, but none of them were talking to each other. "Commander," the lead Vulcan engineer called out desperately. "The magnetic containment is failing faster than we can repair it. And the cooling systems aren't responding," added a Reptan engineer. "The exotic matter is too hot for our equipment to handle." Kim stepped forward. "The problems are connected," he said. "The exotic matter isn't just hot, it's creating quantum fluctuations that interfere with your magnetic fields. And the magnetic instability is causing the cooling systems to work against each other instead of together." The alien engineers stared at him. "How could you possibly know that?" the Vulcan asked. Kim tapped his helmet, "'Cause I can see the whole system at once. Your sensors are designed for individual species, but our helmets can translate between different types of data." Dr. Park joined him at the main display. "Look," she said, her helmet projecting a holographic image into the air. "This is what the exotic matter field looks like right now." The hologram showed a swirling mass of energy, constantly changing shape and color, but instead of random chaos, Kim could see patterns in the movement. "It's not random," Nam said, his student helmet, analyzing the quantum mathematics. "The exotic matter is trying to find a stable state, but your containment systems are fighting against its natural behavior." "Natural behavior?" Commander Veltar asked. "Exotic matter wants to exist in quantum superposition," Dr. Park explained. "Multiple states at the same time. But your containment system is trying to force it into one stable state. That's what's causing the fluctuations." Choi stepped up to a control panel, his cargo helmet interfacing with the station's power distribution system. "The power flow is all wrong too. We're sending energy to each containment system separately, but they need to work together as one big system." Song's diplomatic helmet was accessing the station's communication networks. "I'm coordinating with the evacuation ships. They're standing by to return if we can solve this." The alien engineers looked confused and frustrated. "Even if what you say is true," the Reptan engineer said, "how do we fix it? Our systems weren't designed to work the way you're describing." "That's the difference between us," Kim said, his helmet already calculating solutions. "Your systems are designed to be perfect for specific situations. Human systems are designed to be adaptable." Kim's helmet connected to the station's main computer. For a moment, he felt the same thrill that Lee Dong-soo must have felt 40 years ago, the sensation of human creativity meeting alien technology. "I'm uploading new control protocols," Kim announced. "Instead of fighting the exotic matters, quantum nature, we're going to work with it." "That's impossible," the Vulcan engineer protested. "Exotic matter can't be controlled that way." "Not controlled," Dr. Park corrected. "Guided. We're going to give it a path to a stable state that doesn't involve collapsing into a black hole." Nam's helmet was running complex calculations. "If we synchronize all the containment fields to pulse together instead of separately, we can create a standing wave pattern. Exotic matter will stabilize itself. And if we reroute the cooling systems to work as one network instead of separate units," Choi added, "we can manage the temperature fluctuations." The alien engineers watched in amazement as the humans worked together. Their helmets shared data instantly, each one contributing to a solution that none of them could have found alone. 30 minutes to containment failure," Dr. Park announced. "Implementing the new protocols now," Kim said. His helmet was controlling dozens of systems simultaneously, something that would have taken the alien engineers hours to coordinate. On the main display, the readings began to change. The chaotic fluctuations in the exotic matter field started to settle into regular patterns. "It's working," the Nebulite engineer said in amazement. "The quantum fluctuations are stabilizing." "Temperature is dropping," reported the Reptan engineer. "Magnetic containment is holding steady," added the Vulcan. Commander Veltar watched the displays with wonder. "How are you doing this?" "We're thinking like humans," Kim replied. "We see connections instead of separations. We adapt instead of following rigid procedures. We work together instead of competing." Song looked up from her communication station. The evacuation ships are asking for permission to return. They want to know if the station is safe. 20 minutes to original failure time, Dr. Park announced. But exotic matter readings are now in the stable range. Better than stable, Nam added excitedly. The new configuration is actually more efficient than the original design. The exotic matter is producing more energy while being safer to contain. The alien engineers gathered around their displays, checking and rechecking the readings. Slowly, their expressions changed from fear to wonder to something approaching respect. The crisis is over, the lead Vulcan engineer announced. All systems are stable and functioning within normal parameters. Commander Veltar approached Kim slowly. I don't understand how you did it. Kim removed his helmet, revealing his tired but satisfied face. That's exactly why you tried to take these away from us. You wanted to contain human potential. But you can't regulate creativity. Can't put limits on the human ability to see new solutions to old problems. You weren't just solving an engineering problem, Veltar said quietly. You were showing us a different way of thinking. That's what humans do, Dr. Park said, removing her own helmet. We adapt. We innovate. We find ways to make things work. Better than they did before. Song stood up from her communication station. Commander, I'm recommending that the Galactic Transit Authority immediately rescind regulation. 847B, this incident proves that the helmet ban was not only discriminatory, but dangerous. Veltar looked around the control room at his alien engineers, then back at the humans. I will personally submit that recommendation to the Hegemony Council. Along with a full report of what happened here today, Kim smiled. And what will you tell them? That I learned something important, Veltar replied. Fear of human potential led us to make rules that put everyone in danger. Today, human creativity and cooperation saved thousands of lives. Dr. Park activated her datapad one final time. I'm publishing my research on human adaptability and the helmet regulation. The galaxy needs to know the truth about what happened here. As the emergency alarms finally fell silent and the station returned to normal operations, Kim looked around at his fellow humans. They had proven something important today, not just that they could solve problems, but that human ways of thinking had value in a galaxy that had tried to suppress them. The helmet regulation would be history within days. But more importantly, the galaxy would begin to understand that human creativity, adaptability, and cooperation weren't threats to be contained. They were gifts to be celebrated. So, Choice said with a grin, anyone want to catch the next transport? I hear they're allowing helmets on board again. The humans laughed, and even Commander Veltar's armor plates shifted in what, Kim had learned, was the Korathine equivalent of a smile. The galaxy was about to become a much more interesting place.